When we say the word tank, what image immediately pops into your head? We assume it might be a massive, rumbling, and terrifying piece of military equipment. A tank is usually perceived as something that really plows the battlefield, and you would think it could wipe out anything that comes in its way. But let's not perpetuate stereotypes. There are exceptions to rules. On the battlefield, not every tank needs to be a massive monster. Tanks can be divided into a few different categories based on their size. You'll learn about the most diminutive of them all and their role in the fights if you continue watching. Their effectiveness and lethality are comparable to that of their larger siblings when employed correctly. So here are the smallest tanks in the world. The Badger. If you believe the Guinness Book of World Records, this is the smallest tank that has ever been built. It's the tiniest tank that can be driven by a single person. Don't be fooled by how it seems. The Badger's primary function is to break through walls and other forms of defense. It can fit through any standard door thanks to its compact size. If the door is solid, it will penetrate the wall and crash into you with great force. All firearms, powerful machine guns, and smaller explosions are useless against its armor. The how designers were experts in creating military-grade vehicles, but the Badger proved challenging. Their objective was to design a vehicle smaller than a person that can nonetheless carry and be controlled by a person. Like a feisty young ram, the Badger refuses to give up, and that's why the SWAT teams are its primary clientele. They employ it to gain access to areas that regular soldiers would be unable to reach. Badgers are particularly effective because of their unique design, which allows them to effortlessly smash through barriers while also acting as a bulletproof shield. Smaller caliber weapons are incapable of even chipping the paint. It's at home in the city, the suburbs, or the countryside, and it can even fit in an elevator. Clearly a versatile piece of equipment. The Tankettes. Its name really explains what it is. These tanks were developed in the years between the wars and saw action during World War II. The majority of weapons employed in the fight were able to easily penetrate their light armor. With a few notable exceptions, such as the German RHEINMETALL AG WIESEL 1, the concept was eventually abandoned. During World War I, Allied tanks would smash through opposing trenches, but the infantry would retreat. This inspired the development of this sort of tank. Artillery bombardment would either stall or wipe it out, and then reinforcements would flood the gap and wipe out the tanks that achieved the breakthrough. Therefore, the Tankettes approve of this plan. Originally intended to be manned armored vehicles, production shifted to Tankettes that could fit 2 or 3 people. Most of them were only armed with machine guns, occasionally supplemented by 20mm autocannons or grenade launchers, and had no turrets or tank guns. Giffard LOCUST M22 developed the concept of a one-man tank in his garage and presented it to the military office. A handful of different concepts followed, with a 2-person Carton Lloyd tank being the most successful. The Italian Royal Army was a dedicated user of these little tanks. They produced numerous L3/33 and L3/35 and supplied 3 divisions with them. Noteworthy conflicts include the invasion of Ethiopia, the Spanish Civil War, and every other conflict in which they were deployed. The French army deployed Tankettes as armored scouts. Small things can really make a big impact, just like this channel. RHEINMETALL AG WIESEL 1. The ability of the German Bundeswehr to drop in airborne forces at the heart of battle was crucial during the Cold War. Unfortunately, it took more than just a hurl of paratroopers to achieve the desired results. They needed armor and anti-tank weapons to survive part of the fire. This led to the conception of the RHEINMETALL AG WIESEL 1. It was given the name WIESEL, which is the English word for weasel, for its stealth and speed when approaching the adversary. The initial goal was for it to be small enough to be transported by cargo planes, but later the aim was for this tank to be handled by helicopters. Developed in the 1980s, it was a Porsche creation. One standard configuration featured a 20mm autocannon and was handled by a driver and a gunner who doubled as the vehicle's commander. A VW 85 horsepower, turbo diesel-powered 5-cylinder engine provides its power. Speeds of up to 50 miles per hour are possible on paved roads, with top speeds of 40 miles per hour possible on off-road courses. It can access areas where heavier armored vehicles can't because of its low profile. Even though it isn't amphibious, it can drive right through water up to 20 inches deep. Newer variants feature tow missiles for use in anti-tank conflicts, which are heavier and operated by 3 people. It functions superbly on fields with average amounts of vegetation. Its lifetime came to an end in 1993 when RHEINMETALL AG ceased making the WIESEL 11. At that point, a wide array of weapons had been installed on that platform. After that, a newer, more powerful WIESEL 2 came out, along with radar, an anti-aircraft missile launcher, command, and medical variants. Scorpion FV-101. Getting a good shot at the Scorpion was challenging. The lack of protection was made up for by incredible speed in the field. It was first used by the Royal Army in 1973 and withdrawn in 1994, however it is still in use by other militaries to which it was transferred. The vehicle's great feature was that it was powered by a commercial car's engine. Due to the British Army's requirement that this vehicle be air transportable, heavy armor was removed and aluminum alloy armor was installed. Steel sheets could be removed only from the engine and the transmission. Wells connected the turret to the opening. Having the engine at the front provided further cover from enemy fire, and it was able to stop 14.5mm bullets fired from 656 feet away. The only other forms of harm were limited to 7.62mm and artillery round fragments. About 8 tons is how much the Scorpion weighs. The dimensions are 17.4 feet in length, 7 feet in width, and 6.9 feet in height. A gunner, a driver, and a commander work together to keep it running well. One rifled gun measuring 76.2mm and another measuring 7.62mm make up the arsenal. It's possible to raise the cannon to a height between -10 and +35 degrees. The 265 horsepower output of the 4.2-liter Jaguar gasoline engine has been reduced to 195 horsepower in an effort to extend the engine's useful life. At a later date, it was swapped out for a more fuel-efficient Perkins diesel engine. By adding a flotation kit to the Scorpion, it may be converted into an amphibious vehicle that moves around on its tracks. The LOCUST M22. This weapon is the antithesis of a well-functioning war machine, proving that not all weapons are equal. It was developed in response to a request from the British War Office to the United States government for the provision of lightweight airborne tanks that could be transported by existing aircraft. British planners first considered adapting the light tank Mk7 Tetrarch for such work, but ultimately settled on developing a brand new, specialized tank. Production began in 1943 and 1944 after the prototype underwent several iterations to improve the design. In 1945, production came to a halt. The War Office was confident in the tank's performance on the battlefield, thus 260 of them were deployed out. The War Office abandoned the Locust in favor of the Tetrarch because of its many mechanical flaws. They saw action in just one World War II combat, March 1945's Operation Varsity. Only 2 of the 8 tanks employed made it to the meeting site. The rest were either destroyed by enemy fire or damaged while unloading. They suffered heavy losses when the soldiers rallied on the high position only to be pounded by artillery fire. As of that point on, the Locust was no longer used and was considered extinct. Would you have believed in this tank more and produced more of them? THEMIS UGV. When we look at this war machine, we can't help but feel like the Star Wars age is just around the corner. Unmanned ground vehicle is the abbreviation for the UGV. In Estonia, a company by the name of Merilam Robotics was their designer and manufacturer. Its modular construction allows for customization to suit a wide range of applications. It's versatile enough to carry merchandise, engage in battle, conduct intelligence gathering reconnaissance, and even act as an EOD. 11 armies utilize it now. 7 of them are members of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, namely Germany, Estonia, France, the Netherlands, Norway, the United Kingdom, and the United States. The hybrid engine enables for silent operation, and the vehicle's low center of gravity and high climbing capacity, up to 60%, and side slope, up to 30%, are only a couple of its other benefits. It can function in any climate because of its advanced sensors and array of vision cameras. Without risking any lives in the process, the major goal is to provide logistical assistance to the Army by transporting ammunition and injured soldiers to the higher medical center. Several of these vehicles working together can completely change the tide of combat. They can serve as an offensive force despite their rather meager weaponry. Both the 81mm mortar and the Javelin anti-tank guided missile can be mounted on them so that it may mature into an effective anti-tank defense mechanism. We don't know if you were surprised by the size and design of these small tanks, but we sure are. There really is a mini version of everything, even cars. To check out some cool information about those, watch our video about some of the smallest cars that exist. You might just be surprised. Thanks for watching and see you around.